Caleb Rourke had always believed that a person's worth came from the honesty of their hands and the strength of their character. Growing up on the open land of Willow Creek, he learned early that life could be unpredictable, but hard work usually steadied the ground beneath him. For years, he worked on the Mercer Ranch, one of the largest and most respected ranches in the county. He earned a reputation as a loyal cowboy, quiet, dependable, and always willing to help. But even the strongest foundations can shake, and Caleb's world began to tilt when his father fell ill. The doctors explained that the treatment would take time and money, more money than Caleb had ever saved. Every day he worked long hours on the ranch, yet the bills grew like tall grass after a spring rain. Caleb did not complain, but the weight of responsibility sat heavily on his shoulders. His father had raised him with love, and now it was Caleb's turn to give that care back, no matter the cost. Elias Mercer, Caleb's employer, was a man widely known across the region. People respected him, but they also spoke carefully in his presence. He was strict, organized, and always watched the world with sharp eyes. His voice carried authority, and his decisions shaped the lives of many families in Willow Creek. Though Caleb respected Elias, he also knew that the man rarely offered kindness without a purpose. Still, when Caleb approached Elias for a loan to cover his father's medical needs, he hoped for a bit of understanding. Elias listened calmly, nodding as Caleb explained the situation. His expression did not reveal sympathy or judgment. It remained unreadable. When Caleb finished, Elias folded his hands and leaned back in his leather chair. "I will help you," Elias said at last. "But I have a condition." Caleb's heart slowed. He did not like the sound of that. He knew nothing in life came without a price, especially from a man like Elias. But he also knew he had no other choice. His father needed help, and Caleb would do anything for him. "What kind of condition?" Caleb asked carefully. Elias did not soften his tone. "I want you to marry my daughter, Marlena." Caleb blinked, unsure if he had heard correctly. Of all the answers he expected, this was the furthest from his mind. He had seen Marlena only once from a distance, years ago. She had been quiet, almost hidden behind her father. Since then, she lived mostly inside the Mercer home, rarely appearing in town. People whispered about her, though none of them really knew her. Rumors painted her in unkind colors, calling her unusual, plain, or simply different. Caleb never paid much attention to gossip, yet the idea of marrying someone he barely knew struck him like a sudden cold wind. "But why me?" he asked softly. Elias studied him. "Because you are responsible. Because you have no history of causing trouble. And because I can trust you to keep your promises." His words were presented as compliments, but they felt like carefully placed stones, building a path Caleb could not step away from. Caleb's thoughts raced. Marriage was not a small matter. It was a lifelong bond, something meant to grow from affection, or at least familiarity. But Elias was asking for it, as if he were arranging business. Caleb wondered about Marlena, what she wanted, whether she agreed, whether she even knew her father was proposing such an idea. "And if I don't agree?" Caleb asked quietly, though he already sensed the answer. Elias's voice remained calm. "Then I cannot offer you the financial support you need." That was it. No anger. No threats. Just a simple statement delivered with the same firmness as a locked gate. Caleb felt his chest tighten. He thought of his father lying in bed, trying to smile through the discomfort. He thought of the nights he spent worrying, trying to stretch hope like a thin blanket. He knew he could not let his father's condition worsen. Still, the thought of marrying someone under pressure felt strange and heavy. Caleb imagined standing beside a woman he did not know, exchanging vows that were meant to be heartfelt. He wondered what Marlena would think of him, whether she would resent him or simply accept whatever her father arranged. Elias sensed Caleb's hesitation and spoke again. "This will secure your father's care and provide stability for Marlena. She needs someone steady in her life." The words were gentle, but the meaning remained the same. Elias had already decided Caleb would be that person. The room felt smaller, the air tighter. Caleb did not want to feel trapped, yet the reality of his situation wrapped around him like an invisible rope. After a long moment, Caleb nodded. "I'll do it," he said, the words soft but firm. He felt as if he were signing a silent agreement with fate, one that would shape the rest of his life. Elias stood, satisfied. "Good. The wedding will be simple. Nothing extravagant. We'll arrange it for the end of the week." The end of the week? Caleb's breath caught. That was far sooner than he expected. There would be no time to adjust, no time to speak privately with Marlena, no time to truly understand the situation he was stepping into. But Elias did not seem interested in giving time or space. The plan was set. As Caleb walked out of the Mercer home that day, the late afternoon sun stretched long shadows across the dirt path. The ranch looked the same as it always had: the stables, the wide fields, the fence lines. He had repaired countless times, but everything felt different. The world he knew seemed to shift slowly beneath his boots, as though he were walking on unfamiliar ground. Back at his family's small house, Caleb sat beside his father, who was resting peacefully. He watched him breathe, each rise and fall of his chest, reminding Caleb why he made the decision he did. He could not tell his father the truth. Not yet. He did not want to add stress to his recovery. Instead, he held the older man's hand gently and whispered, "Everything will be fine. I promise." But inside, Caleb was unsure. His life was taking a direction he never imagined. He wondered about Marlena, what she looked like now, what she thought of the world outside her family home, what her voice sounded like. He realized he knew almost nothing about her except the unkind rumors the town repeated, and he understood that rumors were rarely the full truth. As the days passed and the wedding drew closer, Caleb felt a mix of worry and determination. He reminded himself that he had chosen this for a good reason. He believed in keeping his promises, even when they were difficult. That belief had guided him through many storms, and it would guide him through this one too. Yet a quiet hope grew inside him, hope that Marlena might be more than the stories people told, hope that their marriage would not be a cold arrangement but something they could build slowly, with kindness and patience. He did not expect love right away, but he wished for understanding, for two people trying their best to walk a shared path. The night before the wedding, Caleb stood outside beneath the open sky. The stars spread across the darkness like tiny lanterns. He closed his eyes and breathed in the cool air, letting the quiet calm his thoughts. He reminded himself that life often brought surprises, some difficult, but others unexpectedly good. Perhaps this path, unusual as it was, would lead to something better than he imagined. He opened his eyes and looked toward the Mercer home in the distance. Tomorrow, everything would change, and without knowing it yet, Caleb was about to discover a truth that would shift his heart in ways he could never have predicted. The morning of the wedding arrived quietly, as if the sun itself wished to move gently so it wouldn't disturb the heavy thoughts already weighing on Caleb's mind. He woke early, long before the rest of the town stirred, and stood by the window of his small room. Outside, the fields glowed softly in the pale light, the grass covered in silver dew. Normally, this peaceful sight brought him comfort, but today it only reminded him that everything familiar was about to change. He washed, dressed in his cleanest clothes, and tried to steady his breathing. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the strange mixture of uncertainty and responsibility he felt. He wasn't walking toward an ordinary choice, he was walking toward a decision that had been set for him, a decision that would connect his life to someone he had barely met. His father, still recovering, sat up slowly when Caleb entered the room. "You're up early," he said with a weak but warm smile. Caleb nodded. "Lot to prepare." He didn't give details. He tucked a blanket around his father's shoulders, helped him take his morning medicine, and prepared a light breakfast. All the while, he carried the knowledge of the wedding like a secret stone in his pocket, heavy, cold, unspoken. His father watched him closely. "You're thoughtful today. Everything all right?" Caleb paused, then smiled gently. "Things will work out. I just have a lot on my mind." His father nodded, trusting him. That trust settled deep into Caleb's heart. He wished he could explain everything, but he feared it would only worry his father. And worry was the one thing the doctor insisted they avoid. By late morning, the Mercers sent a buggy to fetch him. Caleb stepped outside, giving his home one last look, as though sealing the memory of its quiet safety. He climbed into the buggy, and the driver tipped his hat politely before guiding the horse toward the Mercer estate. The closer they rode to Elias's large home, the more Caleb felt the weight of expectation. The estate stood tall and proud, its white exterior shining in the sunlight. The gardens around it were trimmed neatly, each flower arranged with precision. Despite the beauty of the place, Caleb felt a sense of distance, like the house belonged to a world he had never been part of. People from the ranch and nearby properties had gathered on the front lawn, talking softly among themselves. As Caleb stepped down from the buggy, many eyes turned to him. Some smiled politely, others whispered. He couldn't hear their words, but he could guess the topics. The surprise wedding, the mysterious bride, the cowboy stepping into a life no one expected for him. Elias greeted him with a nod. "Everything is prepared," he said. "The ceremony will be simple and brief." Caleb nodded, though his heart was anything but steady. He glanced around, wondering where Marlena was, wondering if she felt as anxious as he did. He hoped she wasn't frightened or overwhelmed. Inside the Mercer home, the atmosphere was calm yet filled with quiet tension. The living room had been rearranged for the ceremony. Chairs lined the walls, and a small table with fresh flowers stood near the front where the officiant waited. The soft scent of roses floated through the air, mingling with the nervous anticipation. Caleb stood near the front, feeling both present and distant, as though he were watching his own life from a few steps away. Guests continued to arrive, speaking in gentle voices. Some offered Caleb reassuring nods, while others simply observed him with curious expressions. As the room settled, Elias stepped forward. "It's time," he said. Caleb felt his pulse rise. He straightened his shoulders, inhaled slowly, and tried to calm his thoughts. He wanted to handle this moment with dignity for himself, for Marlena, and for the promise he had made to help his father. The door at the far end opened quietly. Every whisper fell silent. A woman in a soft, cream-colored dress stepped inside, her face hidden behind a long, delicate veil. Two attendants walked beside her, guiding her gently forward. Though Caleb could not see her expression, he felt a wave of sympathy for her. She was stepping into an unexpected life just as he was. Marlena moved gracefully, though her hands trembled slightly as she held a small bouquet. The long veil created a soft glow around her, making her seem fragile. Like a figure carved from morning light, she approached slowly, each step carrying its own quiet meaning. Caleb kept his eyes steady, though his heart beat harder with every moment. He wanted to see her face, not because of curiosity about the rumors, but because he wanted to understand the person he was about to share his life with. The officiant began to speak, addressing the guests briefly before turning to the couple. The words flowed smoothly: promises, commitment, support, and partnership. Caleb listened carefully, absorbing every syllable. Even though the marriage had not begun from choice, the vows carried a sincerity he did not want to ignore. When it came time for Caleb to speak, he took a slow breath and repeated the words with honesty. He meant them, even though the path to this moment had been complicated. He hoped Marlena could feel the truth in his voice. Marlena's turn came next. Her voice, though soft, was clear and gentle. Caleb felt something shift inside him at the sound. There was a quiet strength in it, a sincerity that reached him even through the veil. It made him wonder how much of her true self had been hidden from the world, not because she wanted it hidden, but because others had chosen to hide it. With the vows complete, the officiant announced the moment that tightened the air around Caleb. "You may lift the bride's veil." The room leaned into silence. Even the breeze outside seemed to pause at the window. Caleb's hands rose slowly. He wasn't afraid, only deeply aware of how meaningful this moment was. He gently lifted the veil, the fabric sliding like soft clouds between his fingers. As the veil lifted away from her face, the first thing he saw was her eyes, warm, unsure, yet filled with something kind. Her features came into view one by one, and Caleb felt his breath catch, not out of shock, but out of a realization he hadn't expected. Marlena was not what the rumors described. She wasn't unkind, and she certainly wasn't unusual in the way people whispered. She was gentle, naturally beautiful in a quiet way, with soft expressions and a thoughtful calmness in her gaze. She didn't try to impress or hide. She simply stood there, honest and vulnerable. Caleb felt a wave of regret for all the assumptions others had made about her. Rumors had painted her in shadows, but the truth stood in the warm light right before him. She offered him a small smile, shy, uncertain, yet hopeful. It was the kind of smile that asked, "Will this be all right?" And also promised, "I will try." Caleb returned a soft smile of his own, hoping she could feel reassurance in it. The ceremony ended soon after. Guests approached with polite congratulations, though many still stole glances at Marlena, as if trying to reconcile the truth with the stories they had believed. Caleb noticed how Marlena kept her hands folded close to her dress, her shoulders slightly tense. She wasn't timid, just unaccustomed to so many eyes watching her. He wanted to speak to her, to ease the moment, but there were too many people moving around them. Elias approached, his expression composed. "Everything went well," he said. Caleb nodded, but he wondered what Elias truly felt. The man watched his daughter with a protective gaze, one that carried more history than anyone in the room knew. Once the guests began drifting toward the refreshment tables, Caleb finally stepped closer to Marlena. "Hello," he said softly. She looked up with gentle surprise, as though she hadn't expected him to speak first. "Hello," she replied, her voice still delicate, but a little more relaxed. "I know today was a lot," Caleb said. "If you ever feel overwhelmed, you can tell me. We can take things slowly." Marlena studied his face for a moment, then nodded with gratitude. "Thank you," she said simply. They stood together in a brief, quiet moment, two strangers now connected by circumstance, yet sharing the same hope that something good might grow from this unexpected beginning. Little did they know, this was only the start of everything that would unfold. The ceremony was over, yet the feeling of it lingered in Caleb's chest, like a gentle echo. As the guests slowly began to leave, the atmosphere inside the Mercer home softened. The busy voices became lighter, and the tension that had filled the room earlier seemed to loosen, at least a little. Caleb glanced at Marlena, who stood gracefully beside him, her hands still folded in front of her dress. She looked calm on the outside, but her eyes revealed a quiet uncertainty, almost as if she wasn't sure what was expected of her now. Caleb wished he could speak with her alone, away from the curious eyes of the few remaining guests. But he didn't want to rush her. Everything about this day had moved quickly, too quickly, and he didn't want to add to her discomfort. Still, he hoped for a small moment where they could begin to understand each other. "Would you like some water?" he asked softly. Marlena nodded, and he guided her toward a small table where glasses had been set out. She thanked him quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. Caleb noticed that she avoided directly meeting the eyes of the guests, who offered polite congratulations. Instead, she gave small, respectful nods, trying her best, though it was clear she wasn't used to being the center of attention. When Elias approached them, Marlena's posture straightened slightly, as though she was preparing herself. He placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice calm but controlled. "You did well today," he said to her. Marlena smiled faintly. "Thank you, Father." His gaze then shifted to Caleb. "There are still a few matters to discuss. Join me in my study in a moment." Caleb nodded, but inside, he felt a light ripple of unease. He didn't know what else Elias had planned. He hoped it wasn't another decision already made for them. When Elias stepped away, Caleb turned back to Marlena. He wanted to offer comfort, but he also didn't want to overwhelm her. "Are you all right?" he asked gently. She looked at him, her expression softening. "I'm trying," she admitted. "Everything feels a little unreal." "I know the feeling," Caleb replied with a small smile. Marlena's eyes warmed, as if those words gave her a little courage. "Thank you for being kind," she said. "I wasn't sure what today would be like." Caleb wanted to say more, but Elias reappeared in the doorway, signaling for him to come. Caleb excused himself from Marlena with a nod and followed Elias down the hall. Elias's study was a large room filled with heavy bookshelves and polished wood furniture. Sunlight filtered in through tall windows, painting long stripes across the floor. It was a room of order, control, and decisions fitting for a man like Elias. "Sit," Elias said, closing the door firmly. Caleb sat across from him, his posture straight. He sensed that this conversation would shape what happened next. Elias clasped his hands. "Now that the ceremony is complete, there are responsibilities you must understand." Caleb listened quietly. "First," Elias continued, "Marlena has lived a protected life. She is not used to large gatherings or unfamiliar situations. I expect you to treat her with patience and respect." "Of course," Caleb said. "I wouldn't do anything else." Elias nodded, satisfied. "Second, even though you are now married, I want Marlena to remain here for the next week. She needs time to adjust before making any changes." Caleb hesitated. He hadn't expected that. In his mind, marriage meant starting a life together immediately, even if slowly. But Elias had made yet another decision without asking either of them. Still, Caleb understood the situation was delicate. "If that's what she wants," he said carefully, "then I'm fine with it." Elias paused as if evaluating his response. "It's what's best for her," he finally said, "and I will check on her daily." Caleb nodded, though part of him felt the familiar pull of unease. He respected Elias, but he also sensed how much control the man held over every decision involving his daughter. "There is one more thing," Elias added. "I want you to continue your work on the ranch as usual. Your duties don't change. In time, we will discuss what responsibilities come with your new place in this family." The words, "new place in this family," hung strangely in the air. Caleb understood that marrying Marlena connected him to the Mercers, but he didn't like the feeling of being monitored or shaped by someone else's expectations. But he also knew he needed to move carefully. "I understand," Caleb said. Elias stood, ending the conversation. "Good. You may go." Caleb left the study, relieved to be out of the room. As he walked back toward the main hall, he saw Marlena standing by one of the windows, watching the gentle movement of the trees outside. She looked peaceful, though a little lonely. He approached her with quiet steps. "Everything all right?" he asked. She turned to him, her expression soft. "I was wondering where you went." "Your father wanted to talk," Caleb explained. "Just a few things about the days ahead." She nodded, as if she expected that. "He likes to be involved," she said carefully, choosing her words. Caleb sensed there was more behind her calm tone, but he didn't push. He respected her boundaries, especially today. "Would you like to take a walk outside?" he asked. "Just around the garden. It might help clear our minds." For the first time since the ceremony, Marlena's smile reached her eyes. "Yes," she said, "I'd like that." They stepped outside into the warm afternoon air. The garden was peaceful, with trimmed hedges, colorful roses, and soft stone paths. It felt like a different world from the rushed ceremony inside. For a moment, they walked in comfortable silence, listening to the gentle rustling of leaves. As they reached a quiet bench beneath a willow tree, Marlena sat down slowly. Caleb sat beside her, giving her space but also letting her know he was present. "I want to tell you something," Marlena said after a moment. Caleb turned toward her, giving her his full attention. "I know people say unkind things about me," she said gently. "I've heard some of it, even though Father tries to keep me away from it. I don't blame them. They don't know me." Her voice didn't hold anger, only softness, and a hint of sadness. Caleb felt his chest tighten. "I never believed those words," he told her honestly. "People create stories when they don't understand someone. But stories aren't truth." Marlena lowered her gaze, touched by his kindness. "I've spent most of my life inside the house," she said. "Father always worried I would be hurt or judged. He thought it was better if I stayed away from crowds, from gatherings, from most things, really." "That must have been lonely," Caleb said softly. She nodded. "It was. I read a lot of books, helped with small things around the house, spent time in the garden, but I always wondered what the world outside felt like." Her honesty surprised him, gentle, quiet, yet clear. "I can help you discover it," Caleb said. "Slowly, in your own way. You don't have to rush." Rush. Marlena looked up at him, her eyes bright with a mixture of gratitude and hope. "I would like that," she said. They sat in silence again, but this time it felt warm, not awkward. Two people who had started the day as strangers were beginning to understand one another in small, meaningful ways. When the sun began to lower, casting long golden rays across the garden, a comfortable calm settled between them. Caleb felt something new in his heart, not love, not yet, but something gentle and promising, a beginning. As they returned to the house, Marlena walked a little closer to him than before, as if she felt safer now. Elias watched from the doorway, his expression unreadable, but Caleb paid it little mind. All he focused on was Marlena's soft steps beside him. What happened next would shape their journey in ways neither of them expected, but for now, they had taken their first quiet steps toward a life that belonged to them. Not to rumor, not to pressure, but to the simple truth that two hearts, even those brought together by circumstance, could learn to understand each other. The week after the wedding passed, slowly, as if time itself was learning how to adjust to the changes in Caleb and Marlena's lives. Caleb returned to his usual work on the ranch, but everything felt a little different. Not in a heavy or uncomfortable way, but in a thoughtful way, like the world had quietly shifted its balance. He would start each morning with the horses, brushing their coats and preparing them for the day's tasks. The familiar sound of hooves on dirt and the warm breath of the horses grounded him. It was comforting to return to something steady when the rest of his life felt new and uncertain. Every day after lunch, Elias would call for Caleb to check on tasks or discuss ranch matters, and during those moments, Caleb always felt the pressure of his new connection to the Mercer family. Elias remained polite but watchful, as though he were keeping track of every movement, every decision. What helped Caleb stay steady was the thought of seeing Marlena. At the end of each day, when the sun began to lower and the ranch workers started to head home, Caleb would walk to the Mercer home and spend quiet time with her. They talked, not about big things, but about small, comfortable topics, her favorite books, his memories of growing up on the land, her interest in gardening, and the little stories he picked up from working with the ranch animals. Slowly, a warm trust began to grow between them. One evening, as Caleb stepped into the Mercer home after finishing work, he saw Marlena sitting by the window with a small notebook on her lap. She looked up when she noticed him, her face brightening with a soft smile. "You're early today," she said. Caleb shrugged lightly. "Finished work sooner than usual. Thought I'd come by if that's all right." Her smile widened. "It is." They walked together to the garden outside, where the late afternoon sun painted gold across the flowers. The air was warm, carrying the gentle scent of roses. Marlena led him to a small bench under the same willow tree they had sat beneath on their wedding day. "I've been working on something," she said shyly, holding out the notebook. Caleb accepted it gently. When he opened the cover, he was surprised to see delicate sketches of flowers, birds, and peaceful landscapes. Marlena's drawings were soft and detailed, each one filled with quiet beauty. "These are wonderful," he said with genuine admiration. "You're talented." She looked down, a faint blush touching her cheeks. "I started drawing when I was younger. It helped me feel calm when I couldn't go outside much. I don't know if they're very good." "They're remarkable," Caleb said. "You see the world in a gentle way. It shows in your drawings." Marlena's eyes warmed, and for a moment she simply watched him with gratitude. Caleb realized then how much his words mattered to her, not because she needed approval, but because she had rarely been seen for who she truly was. Their peaceful moment was interrupted when Elias stepped out onto the porch, clearing his throat. His expression was polite, but his presence carried a heaviness that changed the air slightly. "Marlena, I'd like to speak with you inside," he said. She nodded, standing slowly. "I'll be back," she said softly to Caleb, before following her father. Caleb stayed on the bench, watching the shadows grow longer across the garden. He didn't know what Elias wanted to discuss, but he sensed it had something to do with their growing closeness. Elias seemed to be quietly evaluating every step of their relationship, and though Caleb understood a father's concern, he also felt that Elias's watchfulness sometimes kept Marlena from fully opening or exploring her life. After a few minutes, Marlena returned. Her expression was calm, but Caleb noticed a small tightness around her eyes. "Everything all right?" he asked gently. She nodded slowly. "Father just had questions. He always wants to be sure things are happening the right way." Caleb understood, but he also sensed she was holding back some of her true feelings. He wanted to ask more, but he didn't want to pressure her. Instead, he shifted the conversation to something lighter. "Would you like to take a walk down toward the small pond?" he asked. "It's peaceful at this time of day." Marlena's smile returned. "Yes, I'd like that." They walked side by side along the dirt path that led away from the house. The setting sun cast a warm glow over the tall grass, making it shimmer like soft waves. Birds chirped from the trees, creating a calm soundtrack to their quiet steps. When they reached the pond, Marlena paused, her eyes widening slightly at the reflection of the sky on the water. She looked almost moved. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Caleb watched her, noticing how her eyes sparkled softly. "You like it? I never knew this place looked like this," she said. "I've seen it from the window before, but being here, it feels different." Caleb nodded. "Some things only feel real when you're close enough to touch them." They sat on the grassy bank, just close enough for their shoulders to almost touch. Marlena tucked a strand of hair behind her ear and took a deep breath. "There's something I want to tell you," she said softly. "About my father." Caleb listened carefully, sensing the importance of her words. "He wants to protect me," she said. "He always has. But sometimes his protection feels heavy, like I'm living inside a story someone else wrote for me." "Everyone," Caleb's chest tightened with empathy. "That must feel difficult." "It is," she admitted. "I know he means well, but I want to understand life outside these walls. I want to talk to people, learn new things, make my own choices, even small ones." Quote, Caleb thought for a moment before speaking. "You deserve that. Everyone deserves the chance to build their own story." She looked at him, her eyes shining with something brave. "Do you think we could do that? Together?" His heart softened at her trust. "Yes," he said simply. "We can take small steps, one at a time, with patience, with honesty, with care." Marlena's shoulders relaxed, as if she had been holding a breath for years and was finally letting it go. They stayed by the pond as the sky shifted from gold to soft lavender. As the light faded, the air cooled, and the world grew quieter around them. Caleb wanted to reach for her hand but hesitated, not wanting to move faster than she felt ready for. To his surprise, Marlena was the one who gently placed her hand near his, letting their fingers lightly brush. It was not a bold gesture, it was a soft, quiet message. A message that said, "I trust you." Caleb felt warmth spread through him. He didn't grip her hand tightly. He simply allowed their fingers to rest together, side by side. For the first time, the connection between them felt real, not forced by circumstances, not shaped by Elias's decisions, not surrounded by whispers from the town. It was theirs, just theirs. When they finally walked back to the house, the sky had darkened, and the crickets had begun their evening chorus. Marlena walked close to Caleb, her steps steady and confident, as though the pond had given her courage she didn't know she had. Elias waited on the porch, but his expression softened when he saw their calm presence. For once, he didn't say anything. He simply stepped aside to let them in. Caleb walked Marlena to the front of the staircase. She turned toward him, her smile gentle. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" he asked. "For today," she said. "For helping me breathe a little easier." Caleb tried to keep his voice steady. "I'm glad," he said. "And whenever you're ready, we'll take the next step." Her smile deepened, and she nodded before heading upstairs. As Caleb stepped outside to return home for the night, he felt a quiet certainty settle inside him. Something was changing slowly, naturally, beautifully. A bond was forming, not because they were forced together, but because they were choosing, piece by piece, to understand each other. And although challenges still waited ahead, especially with Elias watching closely, Caleb knew one thing for sure. Marlena was beginning to step into the world, and he would walk beside her, not as a stranger bound by circumstance, but as someone who cared deeply for her growing courage. The days that followed held a soft, hopeful energy, as if the world around Caleb and Marlena sensed something new beginning to grow. Their conversations became easier. Their walks became longer. Their silences became peaceful instead of uncertain, and slowly, a friendship began to form, a quiet, warm understanding that neither of them had expected when their wedding day first arrived. But with every step forward, Caleb also sensed that something needed to change. Marlena could not continue living under her father's careful watch forever. She needed space to grow, to make choices, to learn about herself and the world beyond the safe boundaries Elias had set. Caleb knew it, and deep inside, he believed Marlena knew it too. One afternoon, as Caleb finished repairing a broken fence on the north side of the ranch, he looked toward the Mercer home and saw Marlena standing outside near the garden. She waved gently, and he felt a natural pull toward her. He dusted his hands, set his tools aside, and walked in her direction. "You're working hard today," Marlena said with a soft smile as he approached. "Fences don't fix themselves," he replied lightly. "But it feels good to finish a job." Marlena nodded. "I like watching you work. You always look calm. I wish I felt that calm." "You're learning," Caleb said. "And you're doing well." Her smile warmed. "I want to talk to you about something. Something important." Caleb's expression softened. "Of course. Tell me." Marlena took a slow breath. Her fingers played nervously with the edge of her dress, but her voice was steady when she finally spoke. "I want to make choices for myself. I want to try things I've never been able to try. I want to live with you. Not just visit you in the evenings. I want to start our life together. I feel ready." The simplicity of her words, spoken with quiet confidence, touched Caleb deeply. It wasn't bold or loud, it was honest, thoughtful, and true. "I want that too," he said gently. "We can make a home together. A place where you feel free." Marlena smiled, but her eyes flickered with worry. "But Father, he might not agree. He still thinks I should stay here. He believes it keeps me safe." Caleb looked into her eyes. "I know he cares about you. But you're not a child. You're a grown woman who deserves a life that belongs to her. And if he truly cares, he should want what makes you happy." Marlena nodded slowly. "I'm afraid to disappoint him." "I understand," Caleb said softly. "But sometimes, choosing your own path isn't disappointment. It's courage." She held his gaze for a long moment, and something in her expression shifted. It was as though she finally gave herself permission to dream beyond the walls she had always lived behind. "Will you stand with me when I talk to him?" she asked. Caleb didn't hesitate. "Of course. You won't face this alone." They agreed to speak with Elias that evening. As the sun set, coloring the sky in warm shades of peach and gold, Caleb and Marlena walked hand in hand toward the house. Marlena's steps were small but steady. She was nervous, Caleb could feel it in the slight tremble of her fingers, but she didn't back away. She was ready. Inside, they found Elias in his study, reading through ranch papers. He looked up when they entered, his eyes narrowing slightly in curiosity. "Father," Marlena said softly, "we need to speak with you." Elias set down his papers and leaned back in his chair. "Very well. What is it?" Marlena's fingers tightened around Caleb's hand, but she lifted her chin with quiet courage. I want to go with Caleb. I want to live with him, like a married couple should. I'm ready to begin our life together. Elias's expression did not change at first. His gaze moved from Marlena to Caleb, as if he were trying to read something between them. You've only been married a short time, Elias said slowly. You barely know each other. I don't want you rushing into something unwise. I understand, Marlena said calmly. But I'm not rushing. I'm choosing. I want to learn who I am beyond this house. I want to grow. Caleb respects me. He listens to me. Being with him feels right. Elias sighed, rubbing the bridge of his nose, as though trying to hold on to something he felt slipping away. I've protected you your whole life, he said quietly. Everything I've done was to keep you safe. I know, Marlena replied gently, and I'm grateful. But safety isn't everything. I want to experience the world. I want to make my own choices, even small ones. I need to learn who I am without always asking for permission. Her words were not sharp or rebellious, they were soft and full of truth. And that honesty made them even stronger. Caleb spoke next, his voice steady. I care about Marlena. I'll be patient with her. I'll support her. But she deserves freedom. She deserves space to grow. Not a life shaped by fear. Elias looked at them for a long moment. His expression softened, not out of defeat, but out of realization. He wasn't losing his daughter, he was learning to let her become herself. Finally, he nodded slowly. If this is truly what you want, Marlena, then I won't stop you. Relief washed across her face. Thank you, Father, she whispered. I only want you to be happy, he said softly. Just promise me you'll visit often, and if you ever need anything, you come home. I will, she said. That night, Caleb helped Marlena pack a small trunk with her clothes, her notebook, a few books, and the little things she treasured. She moved gently around her room, touching the space one last time, not with sadness, but with gratitude for the memories it held. When they walked out of the Mercer home together, Marlena felt lighter. She wasn't rushing into a new life, she was walking toward a future she chose for herself. Caleb took her to his small house, the one he had grown up in. It wasn't grand or large, but it was warm and welcoming. He opened the door for her, and Marlena stepped inside slowly, her eyes studying everything. It's simple, Caleb admitted, but it's home. Marlena turned to him, her face glowing with a gentle smile. It feels peaceful, she said. I like it. He helped her place her belongings in the bedroom, giving her space to arrange things the way she liked. She opened the windows to let in the evening breeze, placed her books on a small shelf, and set her drawings on the table. The house began to feel different, brighter, softer, more alive, as though it had been waiting for her. Caleb cooked a simple dinner, and they ate together at the small wooden table. Marlena's laughter came easier now, and Caleb found himself smiling more than he had in weeks. After dinner, they sat together on the porch beneath a sky filled with stars. Marlena leaned her head gently against his shoulder, not out of duty, but out of comfort. I feel free, she whispered. Caleb placed a gentle hand on hers. You are free, and we'll build our life step by step. No rushing, no pressure. Just understanding. Marlena looked up at him, her eyes filled with a quiet happiness. I'm glad it's you, she said softly. I'm glad we get to walk this path together. Caleb felt his heart warm with something deep and steady. I'm glad too, he told her. More than you know. As the night grew quiet, the stars glowing above them, their new life began not because they were forced into it, not because of rumors or pressures, but because they chose to build something gentle, honest, and hopeful. Marlena had stepped beyond the walls that once held her, and Caleb had opened his world to her. Together, they began a journey shaped not by fear, but by trust. And with every passing day, their bond grew stronger, showing them that even the most unexpected beginnings can lead to beautiful futures.